NieR Automata on the ROG Ally. We're going to start with 30 watts, as you can see here, so plugged in. Maybe 25 watts won't be a lot of difference unless you are maybe on a power bank, so do not recommend this for battery life purposes because it's less than 1 hour. 1080p, so native resolution, SMAA. I don't like motion blur, so I disabled it. Shadows on medium, effects on low. I didn't notice much of a difference with this one. Ambient occlusion on. It used to be fused with the anti-aliasing for some reason. Now it's separate, which is awesome to see. Global illumination on low. This is the most demanding option. You might be able to push it to medium if you want to, but I think low still looks good enough, and we're targeting 60 on this one. If you want sharpening, you can enable it. In this case, I don't think it's necessary. The game is already pretty chunky with the pixels, jagged edges, so yeah. You also have MSAA, but it's super performance intensive, and we're playing on a handheld. So let's get into it right away. Alright, so welcome to NieR Automata. We're on 1080p, 30 watts. Again, this is for plugged in users, in my opinion. And as you'll see, there's screen tearing because I'm using a capture card. So ignore the screen tearing, you won't have it in real life because VRR screen. So as long as we stay between 48 and 60 FPS in this game, you won't have any screen tearing, which is awesome. And well, this game is locked to 60. We used to need a mod to lower the global illumination. Now it's in the options menu, which is awesome. And well, also music disabled, I'm sorry, because YouTube copyright on this one. But as I was trying to say, you can unlock the frame rate if you want to with a mod. I would advise just to keep it like this, looks fine at 60. Alright, so now we're going to do some combat to make the GPU load higher. Again, I think this is the best way to test the game. Just having attack on very innocent enemies. But the game runs perfectly fine on the Ally. At 30 watts, again, be plugged into the screen. Maybe if you're using a power bank and want the best battery life, consider lowering to 25 watts. 30 watts I think is a little bit overkill. But this is one of my favorite games of all time. I tried it on basically all the hardware always. I think I have it on... I made more than 11 videos on different hardware on this game. So I get new hardware, this game is on the list. I've also did it on Steam Deck and I'll do it on the Steam Deck OLED. But it runs just fine on the ROG Ally with the settings at 1080p, which is the native resolution. But again, this is how it will work plugged in, basically. So most people maybe are going to be playing at 15 watts. In my opinion, it's better to play at 18 just for performance reasons. But it looks good enough, in my opinion, with the settings like this, very similar to medium. I mean, there's not a lot of graphical loss. And the game stays well within the VRR window, despite the drops into the 50s. But if you don't want any drop below 60, just put it at 900p when plugged in. So I think it's time to show you handheld mode at 18 watts, maybe 20. And let's see what happens. Alright, so now on handheld, same settings as before, but now 900p, 18 watts. So again, I think 18 watts is the sweet spot for performance on this one. On system, again, same settings as before, but 900p instead, because we're at a lower wattage. Again, I think the sacrifices made here for the settings are worth it. And we're locked to 60, you can unlock it with a mod, but I don't think it's worth the effort. VSync is disabled, and we're well within the VRR window. It's completely smooth, no screen tearing. It's absolutely perfect like this, in my opinion. I don't know why sometimes it jumps into 63 FPS. That's kind of weird. But look, 6 FPS. We are at 18 watts, so this is like 90 to 100 minutes of battery, give or take. Again, 15 watts, I think the APU is a little bit power starved. Alright, we're about to get into combat. Again, This, in my opinion, is the best setting for battery life and visuals. I think visual fidelity with these settings is good enough. You got ambient occlusion, you got decent shadows. The global illumination, of course, is dropped for performance reasons, but I don't think it's a huge loss. If you want to put it on medium, it should be okay. You might drop into the 50s at this resolution. We got like 20% of GPU to spare. When there is a good amount of effects on screen, it might drop into the mid-50s, but we're at 18 watts. It's pretty damn good when it comes to battery life, and you get a great experience. 900p on the smaller screen still looks great. The UI is still nice and sharp. And yeah, please, for the love of God, do not turn off music in this game. I just did it because I got copyright struck a couple times. So do not recommend that. Just to protect the channel and be able to deliver these videos, it's necessary. But this is one of my favorite games of all time. I know it looks like waifu bait, but trust me, it has a deeper meaning behind it, which is interesting. It's also, at the time of making this video, on sale on Steam, so it's discounted. And if you want more battery life, drop it to 720, keep it at 18 watts. And you should have 1.5 hours battery, give or take, maybe a little bit more. But in my opinion, the game is completely worth it. I cannot believe that we can now play this at 60s on the go. Again, I used to need an entire computer for this. This was a very bad PC port when it came out. It's still not amazing, but at least now it doesn't require a mod to lower some of the settings. It used to be much worse than what you see here. So yeah, I'm super impressed with the performance, despite being an older game of this one. Especially, again, in a portable device. Alright, so now we're running around the open world, because here it can get a little bit mixed on the performance side, especially due to the amount of foliage on screen. I don't know what's up with this engine, but it doesn't like lots of grass on screen, which is understandable, and it has bigger sections. Which, I mean, I don't know why they chose to put some kind of global illumination into it. I know it gives it that specific look, but it feels like a weird choice considering which console generation it came on. It came on for PS4. I'm not sure what they were thinking. I mean, it's not the best looking game in the world. Artistically speaking, I think it looks fine, but there's a lot of low quality textures in the environment, which is pretty weird. But for the console generation, it makes sense. There's a mod for the textures as well, if you want to improve them. There's people that did a great job with fixing textures for this game, super high resolution ones. So I'll leave the mod in the description if you're interested in checking that out. Personally, I think most people will just buy it, hit download on Steam and play it. Alright, so thank you for making it to this part of the video. NieR Automata, again, in my opinion, one of the best games of all time. You will understand once you give it a chance and play it a bit. It has a lot of existential crisis stuff in there, which is pretty funny. But trust me, give it a chance. It's not just some waifu running around with a short skirt. That's just a part of it to attract people, I guess. But that's not the entire point of the game. So I highly recommend you check it out. Again, right now at the time of making this video, it's on sale on the Steam store. And right now, I mean, look at how it runs on the ROG Ally. I know it's 900p, whatever, but we're playing at 18 watts. And 1.5 hours of battery for a ROG Ally standard is good battery life. Yeah, I know. What a terrible world we live in. 1.5 hours of battery is considered long. But you get locked 60 FPS at 900p. You can do 1080p with drops into the 40s at 18 watts. But I think 900p looks good enough. And the game is basically locked there. Sometimes it might drop into the 50s when there's a lot of effects going on screen. But really, with the VRR being a part of the ROG Ally, it's completely fine. Looks super smooth, plays great. Comes to combat, we're good enough. 1080p I would recommend it if you're using the Ally plugged in. For example, I don't know, you're using 25, maybe 30 watts. Okay, 1080p is fine. But if you're unplugged, which most people will, just 18 watts is good enough for 900p play. For 1080p again, plugged in, I think is the best option. 900p again doesn't look bad on the small screen at all. I think it's completely fine. I think 1080p on this smaller screen is super overkill. But this looks great. So I'm happy that they improved the port after all these years. Took them long enough. So anyway, highly recommended on the Ally. You can get decent battery life. Consider what the ROG Ally can do with its battery. And it's completely fine. So if you can give it a chance, I highly recommend it. If you already played it, well, you now have an excuse to revisit it if you have a ROG Ally. And I'll be doing this on the Steam Deck OLED as well. It works great on Steam Deck too. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did making it and revisiting NieR Automata. And I'll see you guys next time. Bye guys. Thanks for watching.